Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're here to really dig into fascinating sources and pull out those core ideas that can, enrich your own understanding.
And today we have something quite special lined up.
We do. We're focusing on session 100 of the Law of One. Our goal here is a really detailed, insightful, and importantly, a positive look at this session.
Yeah, it's unique material, this channeled communication. And today, we're not so much debating its origins, but really diving into the concepts presented. What can they eliminate for you, the listener?
Exactly. And as always, we've got our expert here to help us navigate these sometimes complex ideas and connect the dots.
Happy to be here and explore this together. It's a rich session.
Okay, let's jump right in. Session 100, question 100.1. It starts quite practically asking about the condition of the instrument, the channel.
Right. And Ra's response is initially, as previously stated, but then they add this detail, a nuance about the vital energy having a distortion, leaning towards strength and weakness.
Strength and weakness. So a bit of a paradox there.
It seems so. It immediately flags the sort of delicate, energetic state involved in this kind of contact. It's a constant factor they monitor.
Really highlights the human side of it all.
Okay.
Questions 100.2 and 100.3 deal with something specific. The instrument feeling dizzy after using swirling waters. Sounds intriguing.
Yes, the instrument reports this dizziness after each time, and Ra just confirms yes. Simple enough.
But then it gets deeper, doesn't it?
It does. Ra comments on the instrument's tendency to, well, push past her limits, and they connect this not just physically, but metaphysically.
Metaphysically? How so?
They suggest this tendency, seen from a higher perspective, can actually be a catalyst, for strengthening will and, crucially, for efficient polarization towards service to others.
Wow, okay. So pushing boundaries isn't necessarily bad. It can fuel growth.
In this specific context, yes, if channeled towards service. But then Rob brings it back to the immediate, the space-time aspect. They ask the instrument to consider the value of martyrdom.
Martyrdom. That's a heavy word for feeling dizzy after a bath or whatever swirling waters are.
It is strong language, yeah. It seems like a prompt for self-reflection on pushing oneself too far, perhaps unnecessarily. Then they get very practical.
Right, the advice about exercise.
Exactly. They correlate the dizziness with things like aerobic exercise, suggesting a 3 to 5 hour gap ideally, and even walking, recommending 40 minutes minimum, maybe even 80 minutes between the walk and the session, or swirling waters.
It's like incredibly specific, energetic advice.
It really is. They also mention some greeting might be contributing slightly.
A greeting, like an energetic interaction.
Seems plausible, but they state the primary cause is the instrument staying in those swirling waters past her physical limits.
A clear message about respecting the body's signals, even when doing something potentially beneficial.
Absolutely. A reminder for everyone, really.
Okay, shifting gears quite a bit with 100.4 and 100.5.
Oh.
This is about the Billy Meyer case in Switzerland, the alleged Pleiades contact, Semjos.
Right, brought up because of Colonel Stevens and the questioner's own interest in quarantine and the first distortion, which is free will.
It does feel like a bit of a sidetrack from the main Law of One themes. How does Ra handle it?
Very consistently with their principles. They state they don't judge the value of other metaphysical contacts. They can't confirm if the Meyer contact is purely confederation.
So no definitive thumbs up or down.
No. But they do suggest there might be some positive material within the transcripts of Meyer's contact, acknowledging potential value without full endorsement.
That sounds very balanced.
It is, and they bring it back to their previous discussions about mixed contact, reminding the questioner that ultimately all communication stems from the one infinite creator, just filtered through many, many distortions.
Provides a larger framework, doesn't
Yeah,
it?
definitely. And when asked if this can be shared with Colonel Stevens,
Ra gives the okay.
yes, saying it confirms ideas the Colonel already perceived, suggests a kind of responsibility in sharing information, aligning it with where someone already is, perhaps.
Interesting point. Okay, now we get into the tarot analysis, starting with card 6 and question 100.6. The questioner focuses on the crossed arms of the male figure.
Yeah, and has this interpretation that the female figures on either side can sort of cant or turn his whole body towards their path, calling it the tangle of arms.
So the transformation happens by being pulled one way or the other, left to right path.
That's the questioner's take. And Ra confirms it, but then expands significantly. They link the male to the conscious mind, the females to the unconscious.
Ah, okay. Conscious and unconscious.
And this is key. Ra says both the prostituted, maybe the misuse or shadow aspects, and the virginal, the pure potential aspects of the deep mind are actively inviting and waiting for the conscious mind to reach towards them.
So the unconscious isn't passive, it's actively reaching out.
According to this, yes. The female figures point the way, but they are at rest. They can't make the conscious mind move. The male figure, the conscious entity, holds both possibilities. He can just rock back and forth.
Without actually changing.
Right. Real transformation, Ross says, requires abandoning one of the core principles governing how you use that deep mind. A conscious choice and commitment.
That's profound. It's an active turning, not just being pulled.
Exactly. And Ra also highlights the visual symbolism, the triangle formed by the shoulders and crossed elbows. They associate this shape with transformation and point out it echoes elsewhere in the image.
Like visual breadcrumbs reinforcing the theme.
Precisely. It adds layers to the visual meditation.
Okay, moving to card 7 with questions 100.7 and 100.8. The focus shifts to the veil or the curtain at the top.
The questioner sees the lifted curtain as representing the veil between conscious and unconscious mind being removed.
Implying greater clarity, perhaps.
Yes, but with a caveat. The questioner notes that even then, how you perceive intelligent infinity is still distorted by your own beliefs and how you're seeking.
Makes sense. What's Ra's take on the veil in this card?
Ra offers a slightly different angle. They suggest the veil here helps depict the environment, the milieu, they call it, for the work being done, whether it's mind, body, or spirit work.
The context for the transformation.
Kind of, yeah. And they point out the veil is shown as both lifted and present, reflecting that the lifting is progressive. It happens gradually through the work itself.
So not an instant aha moment where the veil is just gone forever.
Apparently not. Ross states that complete success in veil removal isn't really part of the third density experience, especially for mental processes. It's an ongoing journey.
Then the questioner notices the veil is higher on the right side.
And interprets this as meaning the positively polarized adept has greater potential success in penetrating it.
And Ra agrees with that.
They confirm it as a true statement regarding potential, noting that third density itself has a distortion that favors the positive orientation.
That's a really significant point about the underlying dynamics of our reality.
It really is. It suggests an inherent lean towards the positive path in terms of potential for understanding.
Okay, 100.9 logically follows. If limited viewpoint causes distortions, and service to self distortions create the left-hand path,
then the questioner reasons that the service to self path must depend on the veil staying at least partially in place.
makes logical sense. What does Ra say?
They affirm it. There is the thread of logic in what you suppose. They clarify that both polarities depend on a limited viewpoint.
Both, even service to others.
Yes, but the negative path relies more heavily on the illusion of separation between self and others. The positive path tries to see the creator in everyone, but its focus on behaviors towards others is still ultimately operating within the third density illusion.
So both paths are, in a sense, navigating the same illusion, just with different strategies and reliances.
That seems to be the implication, a very nuanced point about polarity.
All right, 100.10, back to card 7 symbolism. The crown, with 3 stars, the questioner guesses it means mastery and balance of mind, body, and spirit.
Seems like a reasonable guess, doesn't it?
Yeah, it fits common symbolic language.
But Ra corrects this. They say the device is astrological, and that interpretation is somewhat confusing. They steer the focus back to the card representing the environment of the mind, suggesting letting go of a strict interpretation of that crown here.
Interesting. A reminder not to get too fixed on one symbolic meaning, maybe.
Or perhaps that its meaning here is more specific to an astrological system Ra isn't fully explaining in this context.
Could be. Now, 100.11, still on card 7. Those little black russet and white figures now look like sphinxes.
And the questioner interprets this as mastery over catalyst. They also assume these sphinxes are like the engine pulling the chariot, meaning mastery makes the mind mobile, no longer stuck.
That's a complex interpretation. Does Ra go along with it?
Partially. First, Ra clarifies card 7 isn't the culmination of things, but a clearer image of the environment for transformation. So the sphinxes, being culturally specific, don't directly mean mastery over catalyst here.
Okay, so the first part is corrected. What about the second part? The sphinxes providing movement.
Ra validates that second idea, connecting the sphinx image to the concept of time. The mental complex ripens, moves, transforms in time.
Ah, so the sphinxes bring in the temporal dimension of the mind's journey.
Exactly. It's about evolution over time.
Okay, 100.12 is practical again. The 45-minute signal has gone off. Time to wrap up.
The questioner asks Ra if they suggest stopping, considering the instrument's energy.
And Ra refers back to previous guidance.
Yes, basically saying it's the questioner's call unless vital energy is being depleted. And crucially, they confirm the instrument is still open, meaning she could continue if needed.
Good to know. Then 100.13, back to card 7 one last time, the sword and scepter.
The questioner has an initial thought. Sword for negative control, scepter for positive unity, but then notices they're in the wrong hands compared to that expectation.
Another astrological symbol situation.
Seems so. Ra again says these are astrological and advises releasing strict interpretations based on shape alone. But then they offer a different layer of meaning.
Oh, what's that?
They speak of an overriding spiritual environment, a kind of protection or covenant for the mind's environment. The negative adept tries to twist this covenant for self-use.
While the positive adept,
Holds forth what the astrological sword represents, light and truth. It's about embodying principles versus manipulating protective structures.
that's a fascinating distinction. Not just the object, but how it's wielded within a larger spiritual context.
Precisely. Then 100.14 is a quick follow-up.
Asking if other symbols might be more appropriate for the card.
Yeah, and Ray's response is quite telling. They basically say, we leave this consideration to the student.
An invitation for personal reflection.
Exactly.
Okay.
Encouraging the seeker to engage directly with the symbolism and find their own meaning.
Love that. Okay, the final question, 100.15. It's about the instrument's comfort and improving the contact.
A caring and practical question to end on. Ray's response is very positive. All is well. They acknowledge the group's care with the setup.
And then they make a really key point about the contact itself.
They do. They observe much greater distortion towards harmony at this specific asking. And they explicitly link this group harmony to contact improvement, joining in praise and thanksgiving as the greatest boon.
So the collective energy, the harmony of the group, directly supports and enhances the communication channel.
That's the clear message, a powerful testament to the importance of group coherence in this kind of work. Ra then closes with the usual blessing in love and light.
Go forth rejoicing in the power and peace of the one infinite creator, Adonai. A beautiful closing. Wow, session 100 really covers a lot of ground.
It really does. From very practical advice on managing energy to deep dives into tarot symbolism, consciousness, polarity, it's incredibly dense.
Absolutely. For me, some things that really stand out are that idea of exceeding limits as a potential catalyst for growth if directed properly.
Right, that metaphysical perspective on personal tendencies.
And the whole exploration of cards 6 and 7, the conscious and unconscious mind, the progressive nature of lifting the veil.
And Ra's consistent framing of both positive and negative paths operating within the third density illusion, though relying on it differently.
Yeah, and that final point about harmony being crucial for the contact, that really resonates.
It connects it all back to the immediate environment and the state of the participants.
So, for you listening, maybe think about that final point. Ra suggests the group's harmony was the greatest boon to improving the contact. It leads to a provocative thought. How might your own internal state, your own harmony, and perhaps the harmony of your immediate environment influence your ability to access deeper understanding or connection in your own life?
That's a great question to ponder. How does our inner and outer attunement affect what we perceive and connect with?
Something to definitely mull over. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into session 100 of the Law of One.
It's been a pleasure exploring these ideas. Lots to think about.
We hope this brought some valuable insights your way. Until next time, may you go forth in the power and peace of the one infinite creator.